Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode and the game didn't open yet. That's okay. So the game's opening right now. So basically what happened last episode is
technical difficulties.
I pressed Windows key F4 I think, and if I don't press FN, F4 closes the current window. So it X'd out the game and then turned off the keyboard or something. I don't know. It was very stressful.
Basically, we had to restart the computer because the keyboard would not work. It wouldn't actually type out any letters. And on top of that, double-clicking something wouldn't run the application. It would open the properties menu. So, yeah.
Loading the Big John campaign. Big John.
You're gonna have to refresh me on how much it is here. Hopefully it's a reason, honestly. What were we even talking about when it died last time?
I think I was trying to build a wall, and you were talking about
Choose and Civ 5.
Civ 5? Civ 5.
Yeah, because I was talking about AI and why I prefer it versus multiplayer games, and then yeah.
All right, let's see if it left me right off where it should have left me off, because it is an Iron Man kind of game. No, we're back. Oh man.
How far back are we?
Like, if I don't pause the game, like a couple hours. So I can speedrun this. Basically, what? I took these guys and I went.
Yeah.
That. I brought you
Better
down.
be good. Yes.
Here. And then. Because what we're missing is, we're missing food collection, a mill, and Tesla towers, and this mine over here. So, in terms of food, that's easy enough.
And all the walls are missing, nice.
Yep.
Attention.
And there is no fast forward in this game, though I don't think you would ever use it, to be honest.
One of those features that would like be nice but also niche.
As you press fast forward, forget to turn off fast forward, and you die in 30 seconds instead of 60 seconds.
Yeah. For example, like FTL, you were comparing about how much pausing there was in this game to FTL, and I can definitely see that. But also in FTL, if you find a ship that cannot hurt you and you want to raise your skills, depending on how fast they shoot and how much you evade, if you're trying to raise both evasion and shield at the same time, you might have to go AFK or do something for a few minutes. But if you fast forward the game, it'll be done a lot quicker. But there is no fast forward in FTL, obviously. This is kind of a more out there example, but back on the, I want to say, GameCube or N64. It was one of those. I think.
Attention.
It was an older Nintendo console. It was GameCube or before. On the Pokemon Stadium games, there was a Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon adapter thing that you could plug into the console. Maybe it was the... I want to say it was the N64. Anyway, I'm getting off track. You could plug in the adapter cartridge, and then plug in the actual Pokemon cartridge, and play that game on the console. So, like, for example, Pokemon Yellow, which was Gen 1, and, originally I started talking about Pokemon Stadium, and Pokemon Stadium, what you could do there was the further you got into the game, uh, you would unlock special things you could do on the Pokemon cartridge itself. I believe they were called Doduo and Dodrio mode. Uh, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly or incorrectly. I've never been good at pronouncing the names of Pokemon. Um, but I do know that those are like the general terms. Doduo mode would make the game run twice as fast, and Dodrio mode would run the game 3 times as fast. And this would help with, for example, in Gen 2, if you play Pokemon Crystal, which is my favorite Gen 2 game, you could hatch eggs much, much faster. So it helped with that. And there were other things you could do, like just general travel. If you either A, couldn't use Fly at the time, or if you didn't have Fly unlocked, you could travel a lot faster if you know where you're going and you didn't hit a lot of walls and stuff. Um, Obviously, for speed runs and stuff, it's not allowed, but if you've gone through the game multiple times and you don't want to use the headache, if you don't want to go through the headache of doing the same thing over and over again, like I do with so many games, it makes it a lot better.
Attention. Building completed.
One game that I always play on like the max speed setting is Plague Inc.
Yes.
I don't play Plague Inc. often, but the default speed is so slow, and I can never figure out the most efficient way to spread my plague. And obviously, plague types depend on, plague spreading will depend on the plague type itself. I think like the most default example would be bacteria, because bacteria gets a resistance to all climates, but still, you could evolve cold or maybe drug resistance, because I always start in Greenland, and then that spreads to Norway. Although recently, I think it starts spreading to Russia first in a recent update, which is interesting. But depending on where it goes, like in Norway, Norway's rich, so you need drug resistance.
Building completed.
And that'll help out the spread in Norway, or in rich countries in general. But usually the hot countries, such as Northern Africa and somewhere in South America, will be the slowest to get infected, but it's not always the case. One thing I know is that China gets infected really fast every game, and I don't know why. It's just something.
Healthcare?
Maybe. I don't remember the properties of China
You are gonna pay me
in
for this, right?
in that game. The recording is not frozen. We just need to pause the game for one moment.
I said keep talking and it didn't pretend like I was here. Okay. Whatever.
You are doing something, but I want to.
You know,
I'm just trying to explain that like the recording's not frozen. We don't need to explain this
I thought we were
later.
gonna try cheating your viewers out of their watch time.
We're cheating people. We're cheating people out of their hard-earned time, Brendan.
Yeah, they're hard-earned time.
Has anyone seen that movie In Time? I think I saw it when it came out, not in theaters, but like when it was released a few months later, either on DVD or on TV. I ended up seeing it. This was so long ago, though. That movie came out like 10 years ago. And it was a really neat concept. And I was reading up on it, and it turns out Harlan Ellison, a famous horror author, actually brought up a lawsuit against the people who made it because he felt it was too similar to one of his own stories. And normally people have a point in this, but I actually didn't see the similarities. The sizzling plate is directly next to the microphone. Okay, so I'll just keep that there. Okay. So for those who don't know, In Time was a really interesting movie.
Can we talk about this guy clipping through the train?
Nice. I think the writing was criticized for whatever reason. I don't remember many details from it. My friends and I were discussing it recently. But it's about how humanity has like been biologically modified, I believe, and everyone stops aging when they're 20, which is interesting when it comes to implications. But after that, oh, oh, everyone is also born with a digital clock on their forearm. I think it's the right forearm. Not very important though. And the clock has 1 year on it, which is a lot of digits. But after that, the second they hit the age of 20, um, the clock begins counting down. And the currency in this world is time. It's not dollars or anything. Um, so obviously, the more time you have, the richer you are. So one example from the movie is a guy who very early on is in the same room as the protagonist. I think they're in a bar, and he has 100 years on his arm, something like that. And
How do you get more years?
well, working, because time is currency, and like,
And if the time runs out, you just die?
yes, you just straight up die. And it's an old movie, but there's like if that's a key point, if that's a key element of the movie, you're obviously going to see people die just suddenly because they're running out of time. But I won't say like anyone who does, mainly because I can't remember. but I do remember a couple people who just dropped dead.
Okay.
Um, but it's a really interesting
Train
concept,
has
and like
arrived at the
people can
station.
transfer time between themselves. It's
Attention. Building completed.
there's like a weird handshake you do, and basically whoever's arm is like above the others is receiving time, I believe, and the one underneath them
Building
is
completed.
giving time.
Attention. Building completed.
Like I said, cool concept. The writing was. I don't want to say the writing was everywhere, but like it tried to have two characters from two walks of life um, be the like main duo for the whole movie. They were the main characters, but unlike other movies such as I want to bring up The Hateful Eight as an example, but The Hateful Eight wasn't really like two, or I should say, eight people helping each other out. That was more of eight people who were from all sorts of life, but they were stuck in a single room together and they hated each other. Um, it's kind of hard to describe. Um, the I don't think that their
Attention.
um,
Building completed.
interests aligned too well in time, not Hateful Eight, obviously, because Hateful Eight, the whole thing was about conflicting interests. Great movie. That was a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen that, um, right. I was trying to like describe in time to compare it to Harlan Ellison's thing. I forget what the story was called, but it involved this like entity who had a physical form, and his name was like the TikTok Man or something. That's a very far-fetched cry. I don't remember at all what he was actually called, but that just seems correct to me for some reason. Um, and his whole thing was that people had some kind of clock with them or on them at all times, and when their clock ran out, I don't remember if it was a physical thing, but he was basically sent to kill them. And Harlan Ellison, not everything he writes is adapted into a movie or a game even, such as I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, one of my favorite short stories of all time.
Building completed.
So I've never read through this thing that he claimed In Time was too similar to. I don't know if it was adapted into anything, but other than that, I also don't remember how the lawsuit ended. He either dropped charges or they settled it like.
Man.
Yeah, they sort of bumped each other. They settled it either like out of court or there was like a one of those agreements that isn't like made public. I forget the name of it,
Attention.
but something was
Building
done and the
completed.
feud basically stopped. All I know is that In Time was never like. It wasn't like a film people really ever like talked about. No one like hated it, but it wasn't like a film people would say, "Oh yeah, my favorite movie of all time," something like that.
Attention.
All right. So the victory
Building
conditions were
completed.
A, have 400 people. B, only have 90. B, build a
Attention.
soldier center.
Building
Check.
completed.
And D, clear off all the
Attention.
zombies on the map.
Building completed.
And then also survive.
Attention.
And we
Building
have till day
completed.
20 to do that, and it's day 8. So I need
25.
Okay, on day 20, a massive horde comes. And we have to
Okay.
survive that massive horde till day 25.
You again. You call that a plan?
So I need all the people right now. Can I put 2 rows here? No, I should not put 2 rows there. Virtue. Alright, build close to the train track.
The last episode's question was, how do you play Civ 5, whether it be single player, multiplayer, and what victory condition do you prefer? And then I'm pretty sure the stream died.
Yeah.
Because the recording doesn't like Civ 5. Today's question, because it's such a topic I've been talking about for the last 17 minutes straight, is what's your favorite movie? It's never something like when someone asks me my favorite blank, I always like have trouble answering because I have to go through it in my head and I can never think examples. Because I think, what's my favorite TV show? And then I remember, do I even watch TV? Because I do, but like I start drawing blanks. And I'm like, I was like recently, I've only seen a couple shows. And by recently, I mean over the last few months. Because most of my free time is spent playing games. I don't watch a lot of movies or TV. But my favorite movie, personally, is The Princess Bride. And I was thinking, huh?
That's an actual movie?
Yeah.
That's
It's a-
not just a meme from How I Met Your Mother? Oh.
No.
Whoops.
Yeah.
I'll have to fix that.
Man, speaking of favorite shows, Brendan enjoys How I Met Your Mother. I've never seen it though.
How I Met Your Mother is probably one of my favorite sitcoms. When I talk about my favorite shows, I usually go in terms of like what your rise around. My first favorite show was The Kids Next Door back when I was a kid.
That was a really good show.
That was a really good show. After that, I think it was How I Met Your Mother.
That's quite a jump.
Then Game of Thrones
Until
the previous season, because the previous season sucked. And then it was definitely Adventure Time. Recently, like the favorite show that I've watched recently was Adventure Time. And there was probably one other show which I'm not remembering right now, which was one of my favorites, but it's not ringing a bell. But favorite show as a kid, Kids Next Door. Favorite show is like a preteen. How I Met Your Mother. Favorite show as a teenager, Game of Thrones. Favorite show, I guess as like
ah crap, we're adults.
an adult,
Yeah.
is definitely Adventure Time.
Because we're 19. Crap. Wow. Good burn.
Attention. Building completed.
Favorite shows.
The train has arrived.
The
at
only
station.
show I like will sit down and watch an episode of if I have nothing better to do is Criminal Minds because I like crime dramas and the newer seasons. Oh, the show finally ended. Finally.
Attention. Building
But the
completed.
newer seasons of Criminal Minds, after they kicked off Hotch, who was a main character forever, sucked. They were so bad. The first 3 or 4 seasons were fantastic. Because the first 2 seasons had, oh my gosh, what's his name?
I just realized the first horde comes on day
20.
no, that's the final horde. And usually in the survival games, the first horde comes around day 7 to day 12. And I don't have walls on half the map. So I'm gonna start panicking.
Mandy Patinkin, that's his name.
What? Okay.
The first two
let's do
seasons
this.
of Criminal Minds have Mandy Patinkin, and he's a fantastic character. I
Yes.
love him as an actor, and his character was amazing. He portrayed him really well. But then, for personal reasons, he left the show.
Attention.
I don't want to like misquote him by accident, but he began to not enjoy the writing, not because it was boring to him, but because he felt it hit like really deep topics, and he wasn't like a huge fan of it anymore. Just how personal it got, or I say personal, but like how much it actually affected him, I should say. So, they brought in a replacement who, in the show, was a very good friend of Mandy Patinkin's character. And Patinkin's character was named Gideon, and the guy they brought in to replace him was named Rossi. I don't remember his real actor name, but Joe Montagna, that was it. And he's an amazing character too. And they brought in more characters, such as I'm drawing a blank again. It's a Russian woman who had a really like mysterious past that they had to deal with in one of the seasons.
Please don't tell me the game broke, because I just want to press tab. Thank you.
Gosh, what is her name? I'm so bad when it comes to memorizing names and shows. But she was a good character. There's a character called JJ, and she's good. I don't remember if she was original from season 1.
What's
If
up?
she was introduced, it was really early on.
Great.
Attention. Building complete.
Hutch was there from the very beginning, and he was like the team leader. But they kicked him off the show late into the series, and that was a really stupid move on their part. Because they started introducing other characters.
The train has arrived at the
Very good.
2 in my mind. There was
Yeah.
the newest female character they introduced, and a Spanish guy who was perpetually pissed off, and I didn't like his character. But there was Shamar Moore, who plays, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. I don't know how the way I just said it, I don't know if that's how you actually say it. But he plays Agent Morgan, and Agent Morgan's an amazing character. He's amazing development. There's Garcia, who TV show and movie hackers get a lot of bad rep because of like how simplistic it is, but she is a good character, and her backstory is expanded upon, and I really like how they did it. But
attention. Building
the removal of Matthew Gray Gubler, who plays Spencer Reed, and he's an amazing character too. Basically, most of the cast was amazing. Mandy Patinkin left, but he was replaced with a really good character. And the show was fine for quite a few seasons. Then they booted off Hotch, and then they introduced the 2 newest characters, and the show was just really
What
bad.
do you want now? Great.
But I kind of got distracted describing every single character in the show to a point. But that's one of the only shows I will sit down and like watch an episode of if there's nothing better to do, like I've been saying earlier. Because I feel like they write the
building completed.
sickos on the show, the psychopaths, very, very well.
So tired. Last night was amazing.
The only times
Ooh, a veteran ranger unit.
You
So,
know-
what a veteran ranger unit is, I'll explain this really quick before I
Yeah,
get
go
back to you talking about your intellectual TV shows. Is if you have a ranger unit if you have a unit that kills enough zombies, so for these I think it's 100, they'll become a ranger, or wait, a veteran. I'm sorry. And basically, what a veteran will do is you can see some of their stats here, like 5 armor, so they can reduce damage by 5. Venom and fire. I didn't even know there was venom and fire in this game. Speed, attack range, stuff like that. When they become a veteran unit,
You again.
some of it stays the same, but they're now called a veteran. Their range has increased by 0.5. Their attack damage
What?
has increased by
This better
2,
be good.
and their firing speed has doubled, along
again.
with.
A new task.
No, that's it. So
Oh.
for
Here
the
we go
price
again.
for one unit, it is this one unit is now equal to a little more than 2 regular rangers. It still has the same health, but overall in DPS, it's equal to 2.
Can they get promoted again, or is that
No, that's it. And that's the same with all the basic units in the game.
That's something I absolutely despised about Civ 5. The fact that I don't know if there's a limit on how many promotions like flat you can give a unit, but I know it's really hard to get more than like 3 or 4 on a single guy because they have to go through a lot of fights to get XP. But Civ 5 units, you could only get 2 promotions, or levels I should say, off of barbarians. And what
Units
levels
under
did
attack.
was they gave you very specific
What do you want?
bonuses. For example, I say very specific, but like they would vary on their usefulness. At level, like the first promotion you would get could give you more damage if you were attacking in rough terrain, for example, a hill, a forest, a jungle, etc. Or you could get something that would help you if you were attacking someone who was on flat terrain, such as grassland. Depending on where you spawn and how much combat is going on where, you should pick the promotion based on where the most combat is going to be happening, obviously. But beyond that, you could also upgrade that same promotion, or you could go back and get the promotion you didn't take, and depending on what in the past you took, you could take other promotions later on in the game, depending on what level your guy was. And it was rare to see units get past like
Attention.
the
Building
3rd or 4th
completed.
promotion, so you wouldn't have too many bonuses stacked on one guy usually. There's a timer.
Is that the end of the episode?
Yep. We will continue this Civ 5 talk in the next episode.
Alright.
Our forces are in danger.
Let me just probably deal with that issue. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just reinforcing all of our walls with this
Yeah,
excess
double
wood.
layering the walls.
And then these rangers are currently clearing out. What I really should focus on doing next time is buying more rangers, because we should be getting a horde in like 8 hours of in-game time. So that's it for this episode.